3D Holiday Betty Boop Acrylic Nail Art Tutorial by Hotpinkzebrapolish.
Hello everyone, in today's video I'm going to be doing a Christmas Betty Boop. Now if you guys are like me and you love Betty Boop, I have I think 2 Betty Boop Christmas shirts. I hope you guys like this one. I also have 2 videos that are Betty Boop from the past, one 3D and one that is just on natural nails, and I'll post links to those in the description box below. But this one is fairly similar to my other 3D Betty Boop design, but she's got a Santa hat on. So I hope you guys like this video, and don't forget to click subscribe to see all my future videos as well.
So to begin with, I'm going to start with an overlay of white acrylic. She's got a lot of Betty Boop stuff has this really nice high contrast, so she's got this like very glimmery red dress on. So I wanted it to have kind of a plain background so that red dress really stood out as sort of the sparkle central. So the background is just plain white, and then I'm going to be encasing it with a layer of clear acrylic just to make sure that this nail is nice and strong. Plus, whenever you have a layer of clear acrylic on top of your designs, the background almost kind of looks farther away, and it adds this floating effect to what you have as your 3D, which I don't think a video fully captures that, but it looks so cool in real life. And I know that I've tried to explain this to my dad. I've been like, see how it has almost like this little gap, like it's floating there? And he looks at me, he's like, what are you talking about? No. But I see it and it makes me feel better, so I always like to make sure that that's there. And then I'm going to be filing my nail into shape to make sure that it's still has the strength in the proper places, but it's not too thick anywhere. And so now I'm going to begin sculpting out her face and her body with Cover Pink. And the reason I'm using Cover Pink is because it has depending on, I guess, the tone of Cover Pink that you're using, but it has a very natural feel to me. And it's kind of, since it does have some of that translucency, that's kind of how skin is. So as long as you have a white background that the color isn't going to show through, it's really nice to have that as your color base. Otherwise, if you do have a different color in the background, say you had a dark green in the background, which would also look really good for her, you would probably want to first sculpt her out in white and then add the Cover Pink on top of that. So head, body, arms is what you're going for here. And then with black acrylic, I'm going to be adding her hair. So her hair has all those little wispies that kind of curl around her face. I did not do those with the acrylic. I did those with paint afterwards because doing those with the acrylic would be quite tedious and probably wouldn't get them as thin and as curly as you wanted them to be anyways. So I figured I would just not even worry about that and do that later with paint. And then she also has her red dress and her red hat. And like I said, it is very glittery and very glitzy, but I added that later. So to begin with, I just sculpted both of those out with red acrylic. So I'm going to begin with her dress. And I love looking at Betty Boop pictures. I love kind of just that styling. It's I don't know, it's just one of those things that's just so classic. Betty Boop is just one of those characters that everyone knows, and yeah, I love her. So anyways, add her red dress, and then I'm going to add her red hat, and her hat is kind of off to one side, and put it to the side that is opposite from the direction that her hip is turned, if that makes sense. So if her hip is kind of on mine, if you're looking at it right now, is kind of going off to the right, so her hat should go off to the left, because her body is turned, so her head is turned back, almost looking over her shoulder, so her hat goes the other way. And then she's got this really fluffy little shawl that she's wearing, so I'm going to be adding her shawl with white acrylic. And I know that it's kind of seems like a weird concept of putting white acrylic on top of a white background, but it does show up, I promise you, especially in the end when you have the glossy and matte contrast. So then I've got her little trim on her hat as well that kind of wraps around her head a little bit there on the side. And I know that a little bit of my trim is turning kind of a pinkish color. That is because my red acrylic is so pigmented that it seems to leak into my white acrylic no matter what I do. So I just let it happen and then I paint over it later. And so now I'm going to be doing all of the hand painting on her. So I'm going to start by painting her eyes. So just 2 circles with white, and her eyes are pretty low on her face. She's got a nice high forehead. And then I'm going to be adding her little lips with red. And then with black paint, I'm going to go through and add those little hair curls, like I said, that I didn't do with the acrylic before, just because it would be a little bit difficult. So I'm going to be adding those that go around her face, and then the ones that go sort of like off on her head. And also, her part was a little bit thicker than I would have normally made it, so I'll thin that out later too. And then I add little gold earrings, and then using slightly diluted black paint just so that your lines can be a little bit easier to control and a little smaller, I'm going to be adding all of the little details on her face. So I'm going to start by outlining her eyes, which, like I said, you want to make sure you're using little thin brush for this to make sure her outlines are really small. Then I'm going to be adding her eyelashes, and then so she's got upper and lower eyelashes, so add those both. and then add the pupils in her eye. So just start with a little half circle of black. Later on I added a little highlight with white, but for now I'm just doing the black details. And then add her eyebrows. So that's why she has that nice high forehead, because she's got those big expressive eyebrows. And then I'm going to be adding little bits of outlines here and there on the rest of her. So I'm going to be outlining her face and her arms and her shawl. Adding that little outline around her shawl is really going to help define it from the background as well. It's another one of those little things that makes it easier to see. And I know you can't really tell that it's fluffy, but if you wanted to kind of increase the fluff factor and add another texture to this design, you could also put flocking powder over her shawl and over the little trim on her hat. That would also look really nice. So that's a different idea that you could do too. But then I'm just going to be outlining basically everything. Anytime I'm doing a cartoon that's a little bit older, they always outlined everything. You know, it's kind of one of those things where it's not like today where they've got all the technology to make their cartoons look more 3D. Everything gets outlined so that everything is very visible. And then with white, I added the highlight in her eyes and then the highlight on all of her white fur. So hat and shawl. And then, like I said, I just kind of straightened out her part a little bit because it wasn't quite there. And then I'm going to be taking a glittery red gel polish, and I first just applied it right from the bottle with the bottle brush onto her dress and her hat. And then taking a little brush, I'm just going to be kind of spreading it out so it goes everywhere. And then I'm going to be taking a little bit of that and also sticking that on her lips. And then with a matte top coat, I'm going to be applying that over her face and over her anything that's the cover pink, the black, and the white, leaving the red in the background. And so then the red stuff, the red glittery stuff, and the white background, I'm going to be applying gel sealer over. So the white on her hat and her shawl is matte, and the white on her background is glossy. I also put the glossy on top of her eyes and her lips. I forgot to mention those. And that is it. Like I said, I love this design. I'm thinking I might have to make this one into a ring just because I have so much Betty Boop stuff that it would definitely be worn. So I hope you guys like this, and please share recreations with me on Facebook or Instagram. I'd love to see them, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!